Yeah, welcome everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this internal transfer information session. My name is Karina. I'm the associate with the DeGroote student experience team. And today I'm joined by Lori Hill, one of our academic advisors, and Lisa Barty, our operations manager. I just want to let you know before we start that this session is being recorded. So if you want to rewatch it later, it will be available to you. And also feel free to use the Q&A and post your questions in there. I'll be monitoring those questions. Okay, so now I'll pass it on to Lori. Thank you very much.
Actually, I'm going to start, Karina.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
Karina. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for your interest in joining DeGroote. Today, I'm going to just introduce the session and Lori's going to give you all of the information. Transferring into DeGroote is a very fairly straightforward process, but there are a few things we want to caution you about and some tips we want to share today. Karina, could you put the next slide, please? Lori, sorry, yeah. Lori, thank you. So there are two programs you have the option to transferring into, Business 1 or Honors Commerce 2. Just to be clear, all students in DeGroote start in Business 1, and then if you successfully complete level 1, you move into Honors Commerce 2. So it's not like really like they're two separate programs. It's more of a technical issue, but you start in Business 1, and then if you successfully complete that, you move into your Honors Commerce program for levels 2, 3, and 4. I just want to remind everybody that what we're talking about today is for a start date in fall 2022. Unfortunately, it is too late to apply to transfer for this coming fall, and we do not do transfers in the winter. Next slide, please. So one thing I want to caution everybody about is meeting the minimum requirements does not guarantee you admission. I'm going to be very transparent. Over the past 5 years, we have seen an increase year over year in the number of students who are in other faculties at McMaster applying to transfer to DeGroote, either going into first or second year. And we do have very limited numbers of seats. And the number of seats changes each year. So students often ask me, Lisa, how many seats are going to be available for next fall? I can't answer that question right now, because what we do is we look to see how many students who are currently registered at DeGroote leave the program. And that is what informs us as to the number that we're able to take. So you can see that number does fluctuate. I will share that last year we had about 300 applicants and we had 100 seats we were able to fill. So it was about a 33% success rate. The average GPA is clearly going up as well. So again, I want to caution everybody. In 2020, the average GPA of students transferring was 7.8, and for this fall, it was 9. So not to be disheartening, I want you all to still stay positive, but we have to be very honest. Really, the GPA is how we rank students. So Lori's going to talk about the technical requirements and what courses you have to have completed for Business 1 or Honors Commerce 2. But if all 300 of those students had met the completed requirements, then we rank by GPA, and that is how we decide who is offered admission. I also want to maybe dispel a little myth that is out there. There is no guarantee that you will be admitted. So some students have said to me, I was promised I would be admitted for transfer. I'm not sure who made those promises, but there's no guarantee you will be admitted if you meet the criteria. And there's no guarantee that we will re-review after spring, summer. So when those seats are full, and it's our associate dean who decides how many seats we have each year, when those seats are full, they're full. So I encourage you to listen to Lori's fantastic advice today and try to get as prepared as possible for your application next winter, so that you are one of the students that we can review right after winter term. Not saying that we won't look at some students through spring, summer, but the reality might be we may not have seats left by then. So it also does go in order of who meets the criteria first. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lori.
Thank you, Lisa. So we're going to first of all talk about applying into the Business One program, which is our first year program. So you do have an opportunity to apply into Business One, and the minimum requirements is that you have to complete at least 24 units of credit in your upcoming year from September till April. 30 units is what is required to complete first year, and that's typical in most programs, not all of them, but for our program, 30 units will complete first year. But we will look at students who have only 24 units or 27, but you have to have at least 24. You will have to have a GPA at the end of your year, a 6, which is a C+. It's also a 67% GPA. So students who do not meet that 6.0 cumulative GPA at the end of the winter 2022 term, they will not be considered. They have to have above a 6 to be eligible to be considered. So if a student is applying into first year, we will allow students to retain up to 30 units of credit, which is a full first year. There is one thing, though, that you need to be mindful of, and that is, as a McMaster student, sorry, you're only allowed 48 units of level 1 credit over your 4-year commerce degree. So if you do 30 units of level 1 credit in your first year, you have to be careful that you do not go over 48 units by the time you complete your degree of level 1 credit. And there are 24 units of required courses in Business One. So if you happen to come in with 30 units and you haven't completed any of the level 1 required courses, you have that risk of going over the 48 units of level 1 credit. Every student, this applies to every student who is applying into our level 1 or level 2 program, must have credit in Ontario High School Advanced Functions, which is MHF4U. If you haven't completed that high school credit, you do have an opportunity to complete that course here at McMaster. It is equivalent to that credit, and it is Math 1K if you haven't done advanced functions. Also, every student is required to complete high school calculus and vectors, which is MCV4U. And if you haven't completed that credit, we have it offered here at McMaster. It's Math 1FO3. So if a student were to complete Math 1K because they haven't done obviously the advanced functions or the calculus and vectors, they do require a grade of B- in that Math 1K. So if you haven't got both high school credits, the Math 1K will cover both of those credits, but you do need a higher average. For those who only have to take the high school calculus and vectors, Math 1F, we just require a pass in that course. And a pass here at McMaster is 50%. So we do have students who come to McMaster and spend 1 year in a special English language program called MELD. And if you are in that category where you're in your first year of MELD and you want to apply to come to Business One after your first year at MELD, you do have to have a GPA of at least 6 in your 6 units of linguistics. You must also have had the Ontario High School admission average coming into our first year, which is 86% this year. And again, you have to have credit in that high school calculus and vectors. So we're now going to move to transferring into our second year, which is Commerce 2. So for any student finishing their first year in another program, they can apply to Commerce 2. You will need 6 out of 7 required courses from Business One. And if you complete only 6 out of 7, you will have to complete the one that you were missing when you were admitted into our second year. So for our students transferring, they have to complete 7 required courses. So we will look at students who have 6 out of 7. If you have 7 out of 7, great, you won't have one to make up when you do come in. In order to apply, you do have to have, as I said earlier, a minimum cumulative GPA of 6, which is a C+. And again, as Lisa had mentioned earlier, that does not guarantee that you will be admitted because it will depend on the number of applicants we have and how many spaces we have available for transfer. And as Lisa mentioned earlier, the average GPA for this year coming into the fall was a 9.0. We do require a 6 to be eligible to apply, and we do consider you, but it's not a guarantee. So here are the requirements that you have to complete. So again, on the left side, as I've mentioned earlier, you do have to have the 2 high school credits. And if you don't have them, you can do the equivalents here at McMaster. Both those math courses are offered in the fall term. And then on the right-hand column, you will see the commerce and economics and math courses that are required for first year. So you do have to do, out of that list on the right-hand side, there are 7 required courses. You have to have a minimum of 6. And it doesn't matter which 6 out of 7 you complete, you do have to have a minimum. So we do have financial accounting, organizational behavior, data analytics, introduction to marketing, macroeconomics and macroeconomics. And then you have to complete one of our university level calculus courses. And we have provided a list there with 5 maths. You do not have to complete all 5, you only have to complete 1, but it's dependent on the program that you are in. So we do provide the maths that are required for students who may be in social sciences and humanities, as well as science and engineering. So whatever math you have access to is fine. You can complete any one of those 5. So a lot of students may ask this question because they may notice that students who are currently in our first year have to complete these 2 courses. There's Commerce 1 EO3 and there's a Commerce 1 GRO. And we just want you to know that you are not required to complete either of those courses. You're not permitted to take them, but they're not required. So there are 2 courses you don't have to complete. If you know someone who's in our first year business program and notice they're taking them and you worry that you need to take these courses, actually you don't. You're exempted from completing them in order to transfer. So now I'm going to hand it back to Lisa.
Thank you, Lori. So for students considering to transfer into Honors Commerce Level 2, you're probably thinking, how do I get all these Level 1 courses completed? Well, first of all, there are no prereqs on our Level 1 courses, so it does not matter what faculty you are in, you should have access to them. However, you may have tried to register in them right now, and you might be getting an error message about reserve caps. We cannot guarantee seats in Level 1 courses for students in other faculties, but we will have some seats we will be releasing on August 23rd. So that's a little bit of a hint. August 23rd, we will be releasing our reserve caps, and we encourage you, if you are wanting seriously to transfer into Honors Commerce 2, plan accordingly. I think it's really important to plan so that you are setting yourself up for a successful application. But also, if you think your GPA isn't going to be as strong enough to meet the cutoff, the 6, or competitive to be in an 8 or 9 range, you also need to think about what happens if you do not successfully transfer to business. Are these courses going to work for the program I'm currently in? So I encourage you to speak to your home department academic advisors. Unfortunately, we cannot meet one-on-one with students. We've had lots of requests, and I understand, but we already have 4,000 students our 4 academic advisors have to service. So you should be able, though, to make appointments with your own academic advisors in your home faculties, explain that you're looking to transfer, explain that you've come to the session, but understand what the consequences are if you take a combination or all business courses and do not get into business. I also want to talk a little bit about spring summer, because this is shifting a little bit. We did have a lot of students who didn't meet the requirements, but registered in up to 4 courses during spring summer. Again, we may or may not have seats still available by the end of the spring summer session. I will share in full transparency what we did this year. This year, only students with a 7 GPA or higher at the end of winter term were put on what I would call sort of a re-review list. So they had over a 7 GPA, and they were tracking towards meeting all the requirements based on what we saw they were registered in for spring summer. We did re-review those students at the end of summer, but unfortunately, and we did have some disappointed students this year, students who were maybe had a 5.8 and were taking courses to upgrade their average. As Lori said, if you don't meet the minimum 6 GPA, you will not be eligible even if you upgrade over the summer. So I just wanted to be clear about spring summer session. You may be able to use it to strengthen your application, but I want to caution you in the sense that from an expectation that if you take courses in the summer, you will get in for sure. It is a very competitive process. With that, I'll turn it back over to Lori.
Sorry, excuse me. So we have 4 very interesting questions. Would you like to wait until the end of the presentation, Lori? Because I think they kind of relate to what you were talking about. Yeah.
Sure, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So the first one is, I'm going into my first year this year, and I'm planning on taking the required courses for business in order to transfer. Will I be able to transfer to Honors Commerce 2 at the end of this year?
So we only have one program for level 2, and it is Honors Commerce 2. So any student who meets the requirements and completes the courses, at least 6 out of the 7 at the end of their year, and meet that minimum 6.0 cumulative GPA, if they have all of those completed, they are eligible to be accepted, but we do not guarantee at that point. They are evaluated, but no guarantee. It will depend on the number of applicants that we have and how many spaces we have available. We do not know that until we're completing our reviewing with our current students in Business 1, which will be the end of April. And once we see the number of spaces we have, we actually start with the students with the highest average and work our way down our list of applicants until we meet the number of spaces we have available. So you want to work as well as hard as you can in your upcoming year and try to get the highest average you can. But at this point, there's no guarantee. If you meet those requirements, we're going to definitely assess you, and we will let you know once we finish the assessment if you've been successful or not.
Perfect. The second question is, if you already took the required courses and you're going into second year, won't you be transferred into Commerce 3 if you get the transfer?
I'm going to talk about that in a future slide. Okay.
Okay. And then the next 2 questions, I think you're going to talk about them now because it's related to GPA. GPA calculated for every course you have taken at McMaster or from the required courses for the Commerce program?
So it's cumulative. So as you see here, it's based on a cumulative GPA, and that means everything completed to date. So we don't look at individual grades and individual courses. It's based on a cumulative GPA. So if you are going into second year, your cumulative GPA will be based on all of your first year credit. And even if you took summer school this year and everything you complete next year, that is what we base our evaluation on.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay, you're welcome. So you are permitted to have failures, repeated courses, and withdrawn on your record. There are maybe, repercussions according to your average if you have any withdrawals, not withdrawals or failures, but they are permitted. And again, as we just said, our evaluation is based on cumulative GPA at the end of April 2022. So how are you going to apply? The application is quite easy. It is done in April. Every student in first year will have a program selection tool in their Mosaic, and every student in first year will have to apply for their level 2 program. So if you're in another program such as social sciences or humanities, even engineering and possibly science, you may be in a general first year and you do have to apply for your major in your second year. And this is how you will apply for transfer. So the program selection tool will open up for all students typically around the beginning of April, and it closes at the end of April. So you have the month of April to apply in your program selection tool. You have up to 4 programs that you can select. So you can select our program as a possible transfer, but you could also select other programs just in case you don't get your first choice. You do rank them in order of preference. So you will have first choice, second choice. You don't have to select all 4 choices. You can select only one. However, if you put one program in your program selection tool and you're not accepted, then you won't have a program to go into for your second year. So it's important that you do choose more than one. When you apply to either Business 1 or Commerce 2 as your first choice, if you are accepted, you're in. And you will find out that at the end of May in your mosaic. If you select one of our programs as second or third, and you do select a different program as your first choice, and you're accepted into the first choice, then you will be accepted into that first choice. So the program selection will go down the order and select the one that you qualify for. So again, you'll hear about this with your own faculty when the program selection tool opens up. And they'll tell you all about how to go about it, but that's when you're going to apply. So when you do apply and come into our program, you are permitted to retain transfer credit that you've achieved prior to your transfer. So as I said earlier, for students in Business 1, you are permitted up to 30 units of transfer credit. And typically students will complete 30 units in their first year. But you do have to be mindful that you are only allowed 48 units of level 1 credit over your 4-year program. So you want to be sure that if you're coming in, you want to try to complete some of the required courses for first year so that you do have room to complete what is remaining if you come into first year. And any student applying into first year cannot have completed all of the required courses for Business 1. You have to apply to Commerce 2 if you have completed at least 6 out of 7 of the required courses for Business 1. And as I said, 120 units is required to satisfy the program. So if you're coming into first year, it will take you 3 more years to complete the commerce degree. If you're coming into second year, you are permitted up to 60 units of transfer credit. And what that would mean that 120 units is required to satisfy our program. So if you're coming in with the full 60 units of transfer credit, you will only have 2 more years left to complete your degree. If you have completed more than 60 units coming into Commerce 2, you will not retain all the credit, only up to 60 units. So here's the question about Commerce 3. So any student who actually comes in and is accepted and has less than 54 units of credit, total credit, they will transfer into Commerce 2. So anything below 54 units comes into second year. Any student with anywhere between the 54 to 60 will automatically transfer into level 3 because the progression into the level 3 program is based purely on GPA and units of credit. It does not matter if you haven't completed all of the required courses to go into level 3. So there are required courses for level 2. If you haven't completed all the courses for level 2, but you have at least 54 units of credit, you automatically go into level 3. And then you would complete what you are missing for level 2 while you're in level 3. Also important, if a student does come into level 3, so if you have over the 54 units or over, you will not be eligible to apply for our Commerce internship program. Only students who come into a first or second year are eligible for the internship program. The reason for that is there is a required course for the internship program that must be completed in your second year in commerce. And because you come into third year, you have missed that opportunity to complete that required course and you are no longer eligible to apply for internship. So for a student who is going into their second year, if you're thinking about doing commerce internship program, you might want to be sure you don't exceed that 51 units of credit. Because if you come in with the 54, you're automatically going into level 3. So just to give you a little background on our program, because students often wonder, well, tell me about the commerce program. So if you come into our program, your major is commerce. Every student in our program will graduate with a commerce degree. We do not provide any specialization on your transcript or on your diploma if you wish to specialize in an area within the commerce degree. So every student, it's a commerce degree. However, you do have an opportunity to focus in a specific area within commerce. So The major areas you will cover in our program are accounting, finance, human resources, marketing, information systems, operations management, and strategic management. So you will have required courses in all 4 years that will cover all of these areas. You also have an opportunity to complete commerce electives as well as open electives while you're in our program, starting in third and fourth year. Some may be second, depending on what year they come into. So open electives allow you the opportunity to take either a commerce elective or a non-commerce elective in their open electives. You will have specific commerce electives to select, which will have to be commerce electives. You will also have some additional non-commerce electives. So any student that wants to focus in a specific area can certainly do that. But if you don't want to focus in a specific area, you can choose your commerce electives in every area of our areas of focus. So there's nothing you have to declare or determine. It's really your choice if you want to focus or not. So this is sort of a screenshot of how the 4-year program works. So for in level 1, these are the required courses that our students complete in the first year. We go to second year, and you are going to pretty much mirror our second year. If you're coming and applying to go into second year, we will mirror all our first year courses. For second year, our required courses are listed, and then you have 3 units of open electives, 6 units of non-commerce electives. In level 3, you have 2 required courses. We have a 0 credit course in your second and third year, and then you will have 12 units of commerce electives to complete, 6 units of electives, and 6 units of open elective. For level 4, there are only 3 required courses and 15 units of open elective and 6 units of non-commerce electives. So it gives you an opportunity to focus in an area, but also have electives outside of the commerce program. We also offer an international exchange for our students. It is an option, it's not a requirement, and you can go off on exchange typically in your third year. You do need a minimum 7.0 cumulative GPA to go into the exchange. We do have many countries, many universities that we have partnerships with that you can go on exchange to. The real advantage of an exchange is that you pay McMaster your tuition fees, so you're not paying international visa fees to go study abroad. Students can go in their 4th year, but you do have to petition and ask for special permission from the faculty to do that. So if you are transferring into second year, next year, you will have some information sessions to attend about the exchange, and you do apply while you're in your second year in order to go in your third year. If you do transfer into third year directly, you do have an opportunity if you want to go in your 4th year, but you will apply again in your third year and ask for special permission in order to do that. So we do have the Commerce Internship Program, and again, it is an option for students who transfer into Business 1 or Level 2 only. Again, you do need the 7.0 cumulative GPA to be eligible to apply for the Commerce Internship Program. Our internships are 12 or 16 months, so they are completed after third year of study. So students will complete the Commerce required course in second year, Commerce 2 INO. The application is done at the end of your second year. If you are accepted, it is an application process. It's not a guarantee. If you meet the requirements, you still have to apply and get accepted into the program. And if you get accepted into the program, you will enter your third year in the internship program, and you will start interviewing. We do have our Commerce Internship Program that will go out and recruit the positions for our internships. You will have access to all the jobs that are available for internships, and then you apply for the jobs, you get interviewed, you have to be chosen to be interviewed, and then you have to be hired. If you're hired at the end of your third year, you will go off after third year and work, which takes you take leave of your studies while you're on internship, and this actually turns your degree into 5 years. So you spend 3 years studying, you go off, you do your internship for either 12 or 16 months, and then you come back and finish your 4th year. So it does turn your study into 5. And again, if you are coming directly into level 3, you will not have the opportunity to apply for internship. So let's just recap. The application program will open up in April of next year, and you will apply through the program selection tool. If you are a MELD student, you do not have the program selection tool, you will apply with a paper application, and we provide the website where you can link into the application. Also, for a student who is going into second year, you may not have the program selection tool available to you as well. And if that is the case, you will apply through the paper application at the link we have here. If you have any questions about the application or where to find the paper application, please feel free to email our Karina, our BuzzCom website. I'm going to get to that soon. Any questions you have, we will answer them through the BuzzCom. And just to remember that this transfer into our program is very highly competitive. So we do not have any guarantees that there will be space available for students, even though you may meet the requirements. And if you don't have all the requirements completed at the end of this academic year, we're not guaranteeing that you're going to be able to complete them in the summer if there is no longer any space available. So, need more information, you can always email our BuzzCom at McMaster email. It is short for Business Commerce. We're going to have that answered either by Karina, or it will get forwarded onto our academic advising team. And then these are the websites. I'm sure you probably maybe have seen them, hopefully, but this is where you're going to find specific information on transferring into first year or second year.
Perfect. Yes, we do have questions. Thank you, Laurie. So yeah, we have a few more questions here. The first one, for transferring into Commerce 3, is there a specific average you have to get?
It's the same for all students. So it's the same average whether you're coming into 2 or 3. It's depending on how many spaces we have.
Perfect.
But you do need that 6 to be eligible to apply at the end of this year, a cumulative GPA of 6.
So will retaking a course be counted twice to average GPA?
So yeah, if you're new coming into McMaster, you may not know this, but if you take a course and then you repeat it, once you repeat it, the first grade that you had is omitted from your GPA. So the grade stays on your transcript as it is, but your second attempt will count in your cumulative GPA regardless of the grade. So if you repeat a course and your second attempt is lower, they're going to have you will retain that second lower grade. So, but if you fail a course and you repeat it, hopefully you pass it the second time and the second grade counts in your GPA, and that failure will be removed from your GPA once you complete the course.
Perfect. Another question. If someone is completing all the required courses for the Commerce 2 level and still has electives available, can they take Commerce Level 2 courses for them?
Another great question. Unfortunately, a Level 1 student cannot take any second year commerce courses. It's the same for our students in our first year. So you will not meet the prerequisite to move in to take a second year commerce course. In order to take a second year commerce course, you have to be in a Level 2 honors program. So if there are any students going into a second year program and they're in an honors program, they could be eligible to take second year commerce courses. But again, as Lisa mentioned earlier, our courses are on a very limited basis. So there are only limited seats available to students in our courses outside of commerce. So again, you may run into the same situation if you are trying to take a second year commerce course because you are in an honors program. If you meet the prerequisite, but you cannot get a seat in it, it's probably because there is a reserved capacity on the course. But if Mosaic allows you in, then you obviously have the prereq and there is space. And yes, you can complete second year courses if you're in that specific category.
Perfect. I am an automation engineering student, currently exploring a transfer to business. I was wondering if I do the 6 required courses in summer, however, am somehow unable to transfer, will doing these courses hurt my other degree?
So that would be something you, as Lisa mentioned at the beginning of the session, you really, really want to talk to your own faculty advisor about what the repercussions can be if you're taking all these commerce courses and you're not accepted. You do need to know what your options are if you're not completing the requirements for your current program. Unfortunately, I can't answer that because it's not my area of expertise. You mentioned in the summer, so I'm assuming summer of 2022. It's like, again, we've said summer school may not be something you can complete, and you can, if you're going into first year, typically a student can only complete up to 4 courses in the spring summer session. There are 2 terms, there's a spring term and a summer term, and typically a student can only take 2 courses in the spring and 2 in the summer. So we're going to say it's not possible for sure to take all 6 courses in the spring summer, and it may not be possible to be considered with spring summer courses if we're already full by the end of the year. For a situation that you're in, you could always apply into Business 1 because you will not have completed any of the required courses for our first year. But you do have to be mindful that if you have 30 units of level 1 credit and you haven't completed any required courses, and if you are accepted into Business 1, you can retain up to 30 units, but you now will need 24 units of level 1 credit to complete the requirements of your Business 1, and that will put you over the minimum 48 units of level 1 credit permitted. So you won't retain all your credit. You'll only be able to retain maybe 24 out of the 30, but you can apply to go into Business 1 if you haven't done all of the requirements in the fall winter program coming up. I hope that makes sense.
That was a great answer, Lori. I just want to reiterate that, everybody on the call today and everyone who applies to transfer comes from lots of different programs. So we really can't speak to whether business courses you're taking will be counted to the program you're in if you're not successful in transferring to business. Each program has different electives in terms of the number of electives, and as well as Lori specified at DeGroote, we have kind of 3, I like to think of them as buckets of electives. So commerce electives that are non-commerce, you have to take them outside the faculty, and then open electives, which is you can take them in or outside of commerce. But not every faculty has those 3 buckets. So you really need to understand your own program with your academic advisors in your home units, and then understand also that any courses you take at McMaster, whether it's in summer session or fall winter, they do count on your transcript. You can't take courses in the summer and have them not count. So be mindful of that when you're planning your strategy.
Yes. Another question. I'm going into 3rd year this fall and already have 42 units of first year credits out of 52 units total. I still have to take 15 units of first year commerce credits to transfer into commerce BCom 2, level 2. Given that we can only have up to 48 year 1 credits, I was wondering if this means I am no longer eligible to apply, or if I could still be eligible for transfer since only 60 credits max will be transferred upon admission.
So yes, the answer is yes, you can apply, but you have to be mindful that you will not retain all the credits that you're going to complete at the end of this year, because you're already at 42, correct?
Yeah.
So any student who completes over 60 units of credit and applies is only going to be permitted to retain 60 units of credit if they are accepted. So, and it happens, we have students who do have in excess of 60 units completed when they apply, and if they meet the requirements, we will accept them, but you will not retain all the credit you've achieved to date. And we're talking, a lot, you're going to be talking a lot of units of credit, and you're paying a fair amount of money for all those units of credit. You may want to maybe remain in your own program, maybe do a minor in business, and also there's also an opportunity if you finish a 4-year honors degree in any discipline, you are eligible to apply to the MBA program. So, you may want to continue in your own program and finish much sooner, and think about maybe doing the MBA when you're done, only because you're going to have to go backwards if you transfer into our program. And, that's a lot of money and time spent in courses we're not going to let you retain. Whereas if you continue, get a 4-year honors degree, it's possible you could do a graduate degree in an MBA or in anything related to commerce if that's what you're interested in. So it's something to think about.
Yeah, great advice, Lori. I've shared that with some students as well. Full disclosure, I used to manage our MBA program at DeGroote, so I can confirm that we are a young MBA program. A lot of MBA programs require 3 to 5 years working experience. DeGroote does not. We were the first co-op MBA program in Canada. So, there are other options that if transferring to business doesn't work out for you for any reason, minors, getting involved in clubs and groups. Some of our clubs and groups have membership that's open beyond commerce. Staying in your own programs and doing co-ops that are more business oriented, see the business side of the faculty you're in, summer work experience, volunteering, and of course, thinking about graduate programs. So there's lots of different ways that you can segue into a career in business and sort of explore your interest in business, even from other programs. And I've seen it lots when I worked in the science co-op office. Lots of our students did some amazing work in businesses. So, don't think that this is your only pathway to moving into an exciting career in business. There are lots of different options at McMaster. Great. I think we've done all the questions. So with that, I'm going to thank Lori and Karina for their fantastic technical advice today. As we said, please email BuzzCom if you have further questions or re-review this recording. It will be posted shortly. Again, unfortunately, we cannot have one-on-one advising appointments with all students who are thinking about transferring. As I mentioned last year, there were 300 applications and many, many, many more students who thought about transferring. But we do want to help you through the process. So, use the tools and resources that are on our website. You can email a few questions to BuzzCom, but I think today, Lori, thank you. You've done a fantastic job. You've made it very clear as to the next steps for our students interested in transferring. And we hope that if you are still interested, we will see your application next April. So thank you. Stay well and stay safe and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you very much.